Hello again. It is Wednesday, January 11th, and we are back with another Thoughts Out Loud session, another session of the Thoughts Out Loud experiment. It's Thoughts Out Loud session 17, so it's kind of trucking along here with Thoughts Out Loud. This is the third day this week. I'm getting it done at the right time, I guess, at the right time, or kind of it's part of the morning routine. Yesterday was a little late because I overslept like crazy, but it's five about 5:20 now, and we're kind of hitting it on point. I'm gonna make I'm gonna do something a little bit different in this thoughts out loud session. The audio is I'm a little questionable about the audio. Yesterday's session had a little like some kind of high pitched buzz to it, or kind of I don't know, kind of buzz is the best way I can describe it at the moment. I could swear I could hear like this little I don't know high pitched whining, so to speak. So I'm going to do part of the session on one setting of my blue snowball, and then do another part of the session on another setting just to see if there's which is better, because it's kind of hard to I still can't really tell just listening to the there are two different YouTube or two different videos, and I can't tell if the issue yesterday was something on in the office. I had my I might have had my a transformer on because I'm here in Korea. I use American appliances, and sometimes you need to have a transformer that kind of converts the different power. We use 110 and 220 um, in America and Korea respectively. So 220 in Korea, 110 in voltage in the States. And if you have a stateside product, you need to use a transformer to change that to 220, so you can use it here in Korea. Anyway, this isn't supposed to be an electronics or electricity lesson or an appliance lesson or anything like that. It's supposed to be thoughts out loud. And quite honestly, I didn't even really think before I turned the camera on today. Yesterday, I guess we'll start with yesterday just to kind of get me rolling because I'm still a little. I didn't really wake up completely. Yesterday I talked about a book that I bought the wife, and just to kind of get her some one that I hope that she'll read and get a little bit more acclimated to the thought process or the idea of us trying to us pursuing this entrepreneurial journey. I think reading is what really got me to this point anyway. Maybe I'll do that. I'll talk about what really got me to this point because it's actually pretty interesting. Um, where do I want to start? Anyway, I got her the book. This is I'm hoping it will do. I mentioned that I'm hoping it will be for her what Rich Dad Poor Dad is for me. So I thought maybe I'll go ahead and kind of tell you guys that story, um, or talk about that story, so I can go ahead or to kind of give you an idea of what I meant by that. Before I do that, let me go ahead and change the setting to see if. Hang on one quick. So you're gonna hear a loud click. Two loud clicks. So the reason I mentioned Rich Dad Poor Dad is because I guess I'd have to go back to the beginning. So I came over to Korea active duty, did a bunch of things after I ETS, decided I liked it, I wanted to stay. I got out of the army and stayed here in Korea and did a lot of different jobs. Tried to go with a postal background when I stayed. Um, the whole time I was going to school for trying to obtain my degree in computer studies because I eventually wanted to do IT work. But at the same time, I was still trying to make it, like survive, like make money, um, and kind of support my new family or my newly acquired family because my wife and I had just gotten married and we had just put my mother-in-law with me. I was trying to do that with my postal background. Um, Back then, like the dream job or the I guess in my short sightedness, I realize now hindsight's 2020, right? Like I was pretty short sighted, but the dream job was what I have now, like the job I have now, that the the grade, the location, even the fact that it's in a hospital because I wanted to work in a hospital. And I got over here, and it was, after a lot of struggle, like after having to jump to the States and kind of work my way into the system there, and then finally working my way over here pretty quickly, really, because it was a bit of a struggle, but not that much. Um, I ended up with my position now, which I love. There's a lot to love about it. Like working in a hospital is a little bit different from working in like a unit in the army where you're just training for something that you're training for something that's contingency, right? Like that might not ever happen. There's a mental there's a mental difference between working a job where you're actually going to encounter this and a job where you're like, well, this might happen. We can simulate doing something else or simulate doing this, but all this probably never will happen. People are just in a different mindset. So I wanted to work. I like this. I like my hospital job. I like the applied logic, so to speak, or the applied practices because you're working on something that you're going to put in place like the day after tomorrow once you get done with it or whenever it gets done. It's going to change the way operations work. And I truly do like that real life application of what I do. And I like the mentality of working with people. I like the mentality of people in a place where you have a real life application on what you're working on because it has concrete results. In any case, I I like this. I like my position. I like my job, and I like what I do. But I'm not at. I think about 6 months in, I realized I wasn't going to be. I wasn't being fulfilled, right? Like, and I realized I wasn't going to be fulfilled. I realized even if I moved up, I used to talk to my supervisor, and he used to talk to me like when you're sitting in this chair. Like he was back then. He was kind of grooming me for his position, so to speak. It seemed, and it was a nice place to be in, or a nice kind of setup to be in, because it just seemed like, I don't know, not a sense of inheritance. Like I didn't think I was gonna, like not a sense of what's that, entitlement. Like I didn't think I was gonna inherit his job or anything like that. But it seemed like eventually, I mean, I'm entering the system at my age. I'm doing a pretty decent job. I'm pretty, uh, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm just pretty. It's not going to be. I'm not gonna say I have the best words because obviously that's not coming to me this morning. But I don't know. I'm pretty proficient in what I do, and so eventually I'll move. If I keep on my trajectory, I'll move into a position where I'm kind of where I have my own team and I can manage people and do things along those lines. But even back then, or at that point when I realized, when it came to me that yeah, this is what I'll be doing, or this is where I'm going in my career. I'm kind of moving on the right path. I didn't like it. I didn't. It didn't feel like what I liked it, but it didn't feel right. Like it felt like something's missing. Like even if I get to that point, I kind of imagine myself at that point with my own team and even with my own division. Imagine with my own branch, with my own just like if I was in charge of the whole thing, like how happy would I be? And to be completely honest, it's not that happy. I mean, great, cool, but you get one life. I mean, I was happy at certain parts or certain times in the army. I could have done a whole life in the army, but it wasn't exactly what I wanted, and you only get one life, so you got to do what you want with it. And I felt the same way about being, in the army and being a sergeant major or lieutenant colonel in the army or full bird colonel in the army. I feel the same. I kind of approach that the same way I feel about being a GS-13, GS-14 in a government system. So it's good, it's all right, but it's not what I want to do. And so I started looking for. This is going to be a long thoughts out loud. So I started looking for something to really fulfill that, and I started looking around online and started looking for. Just looking, I didn't even know what I was looking for, and I can't remember what. Excuse me, I can't remember what all I searched for at the beginning, but I remember coming across Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad Poor Dad, and feeling like this is part of what I've been looking for. Like this is kind of like the rat race, getting out of the rat race, getting out of the trading time for dollars type thing, getting out of working for my money. That is when I realized, like, oh, this is what I'm looking for. This is what the problem is. This is where my, like, this is, it spoke to me. So, and I know a lot of people, that book spoke to a lot of people, and that's why I ended up on it. I can't remember what led me to it exactly, but once I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, it kind of changed my outlook, and it changed me at work. It's like, okay, well, this I'm not struggling, or I'm not going to be working to reach this goal right now. Like, I'm not gonna spin my wheels to get to a point where I'm still unfulfilled, not unhappy, but unfulfilled. And so that's when things started kind of changing. I started really researching and looking out and trying to figure out how I go about getting out of the rat race. Even though Rich Dad Poor Dad had some pretty good, it had some it gave me that first impression, or it gave me that, it kind of pointed me in the right direction. It didn't exactly speak to me the way I wanted it to, or to the point where I could figure out what I wanted to do. And so I really started searching even more. I think probably the next book I came across was The 4 Hour Work Week, where I read it, and that kind of started just this. Excuse me. That started just this influx of information, and just where I started really getting out. And I remember back then I told my best friend, I was like, "Yo, man, like, I think this might be my last government job," and he was like, okay, because this is kind of what we've been shooting for since we got out of active duty army. And I told him, like, this, I don't know, man, like, it doesn't, like, I have to chase what makes me happy, and it's been that way from the beginning, that I just have to find something that makes me happy in the way that I want to be happy. And getting that, the whole reason I joined the army is because I was chasing something, looking for something that really fulfilled me. So yeah, from then it was a 4 hour work week, and then I found from through Tim Ferriss, I found Gary Vaynerchuk and Ramit Sethi, and I Would Teach You to Be Rich, and Gary Vaynerchuk and Crush It, Thank You Economy, and Jab 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 Right Hook, all these different things. Then I found Pat Flynn and John Lee Dumas, and just Amy Porterfield, all these guys, all these people out there that are doing online business, Neil Patel, and just really crushing it. And so all these guys are doing some form of what I want to do. I think I identify the closest with Pat Flynn, because he's as genuine as I'd like to be. He's as honest and forthcoming as I'd like to be. He's still like in like I don't know, kind of in contact with his emotions. He's a little nerdy, and he got thrown into this. He shared I share a lot of things with him, because even though he was happy as in his engineer position, I was happy. I'm happy in my job, but I'm looking for something else. Now he got forced into looking for something else, but I just I think I'm in that same boat where I'm happy, but I'm still looking for something else to acquire. So that's where all this started, and that's where, I mean, I don't know. I had a sense or a desire to be fulfilled, and I think this is where this entrepreneurship mindset kind of came from. It's always been there. It's kind of in my family and runs in the family. My mom has an entrepreneurship type style mind. Like, she's always looking at how she can do her own thing, and my grandfather ran his own business and things like that. Just, it's been what I've been around for a long time. Just it didn't hit me until I got to a position where I was expecting to be kind of content, and I wasn't. So yeah, I definitely, like, I can't knock active duty army. I can't knock government work. They are great avenues to get you to a life that you can live, and a life where you're comfortable. But if you aren't 100% satisfied with your life, if you aren't 100% satisfied with what you have and where you are, then you need to strive to find what it is. And for me, I think I think the quote of where someone says, "Build your dream, or someone will hire you to build theirs." I can't remember who said it or something along those lines, but it spoke to me like it resonates with me so I don't know, so perfectly, just so on a level that I can't even really put into words. I can't put much of anything into words this morning, but I definitely feel as though I want to work on something that's mine. Um, how much time do I have here? Because I'll tell you another quick story that we're at the 15-minute mark. So tomorrow I'll write it on the board. I'll make sure to do it in Thoughts Out Loud session 18. I'll go ahead and tell you this other story that really made me realize that that really kind of shook me. Something that didn't really, you wouldn't think would really matter, that really caught my attention. I'll go ahead and tell you guys that story tomorrow. As far as today, the main focus for today, actually, it's Wednesday. I should have done I was supposed to do the midweek evaluation. I'll do that tomorrow and then start with that quick story. And I'll go through it a lot faster than what I went through today. Main focus today, today's recording day, and I'm not recording tomorrow's podcast. It's the first time that's ever happened. I'm extremely happy. So, but I am recording a podcast for later on this month, and I'm recording a podcast for the first week of February tomorrow. So, boom, that is right, yes, like that's what I want. That's what I want to be doing. So I'm super pumped about actually achieving that goal. If I can get both of these podcasts recorded tomorrow, get them written, and possibly get them slotted and scheduled to launch like tomorrow's podcast is, if I can get them slotted and scheduled to launch on their days, I'll be pumped up. Do have a problem with writing though, because I haven't written anything. I haven't written any podcast. Excuse me. I've written my podcast notes. I haven't written any blog posts, and that one was still due on Monday, so I'm still falling behind there. So that's what I gotta work on. I'll try to get some of that done. Today doesn't look very good. I had to figure out a time to squeeze that in. Anyway, we're already going over. I'm gonna go ahead and end this Thoughts Out Loud session. This has been session 17. I hope to, I don't know, we'll see how things go. I'll be back tomorrow with that story, with the midweek evaluation, and yeah, we'll see you then. Have a good one.